We are live, folks. First of all, how's it going? I feel like I haven't talked to y'all in a very, very long time. Okay, so I want to talk about story, okay, specifically how it's relevant in today's current political climate. If you're new, go to this timestamp to skip all the life update stuff. And if you're one of my 117 beautiful subscribers, just stick around for like just 2 seconds and then I'll update you on these last couple months since I've been posting. Okay, so first of all, this. Secondly, look at this. No green screen. I don't have a green screen right now. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. But the cool thing is that Final Cut Pro's new update allows me to still do this and have a really cool background and stuff, while also being able to do this without anything. Like I can just look. Okay, watch this. I'm gonna do a portal. Watch this. Watch this. See? Portal. All right, so if you are one of my 117 most wonderful subscribers, little update, I'm looking for a name change. Okay, I'm looking for, I don't know, Petco Paul. The story behind it, I don't really like, so I'm changing it. I don't really know exactly what to change it to though, which is kind of the problem. I do really like story, and I'm a Christian, so if you can somehow fit those things together, that would be magnifique. That'd be so nice. Or really anything revolving around story or like narrative or whatever. I'm trying to come up with stuff, but it's not, I don't know. It's not great. Okay, now to the video. You ever wonder if story is relevant in today's current political climate? Well, if you follow me through this video, you'll be equipped to not only face the societal challenges that come with that, but also really any challenges that come to you. Not feeling up for it, I see. Well, stick with me to the end of the video, and I assure you that I am fully confident in your abilities to be able to use story to get you through any trouble that you are having, whether political or otherwise. Politics. It's been around for ages. It's all about land and it's all about power. The literal definition of war is one government forcibly exerting its will onto another government. Or it really doesn't honestly even have to be a government, it can just be whoever, honestly. Now, have there been many stories that involve politics? Oh yeah. You got Star Wars, you got Lion King, Shrek. All three of those have politics. And there are many others like it. You have ordinary people making extraordinary choices to change their world. But, Paul, I still don't understand how that could help me. No? Well, let's hear what the literature devil has to say about it. It's not a big deal. Listen, okay, so what? I interview literature devil. It's like not a big deal. Dude, listen, I'm just a normal guy, okay? I'm just a regular guy, okay? So what? I have 117 subscribers. Listen, okay, I'm still a humble dude. It's not a big deal, okay? But okay, just listen to what he has to say. As far as like the political climate now, how would you say that, like, specifically for today, like, why is not just story, but like good story, like, why is it important now to like really pay attention to those things, or like to go back to, like, why would you say it's like story is important in today's kind of political climate, I guess?
Well, stories are always there. That's another quote by Neil Gaiman, where he put, I think it was in Coraline as well, where he misquoted J.K. Chesterton. He thought it was a quote by by Chesterton, and then found out it wasn't. So it was kind of like, stories are more than true, that because they don't teach us that dragons exist, they show us that dragons can be defeated.
Right.
So, and I think I think it was fairy tales, but I think it's stories in general. That's kind of true for stories in general, and it's important to have good stories because it teaches. A good story will on the surface teach us good lessons. Like a good story will teach us good lessons. A good story will show us bad guys losing and good guys winning, or what happens if good loses and evil wins.
Mm-hmm.
But also a good story could just be about exploring humanity, exploring the human condition, exploring truths of ourselves that we probably wouldn't get otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
We get something like this, and like No Country for Old Men, these darker
Mm-hmm.
stories that we can also explore, that don't necessarily end well or happy, and don't necessarily star heroes or traditionally people who would traditionally be heroes, but they do show humans being human and under
Mm-hmm.
extraordinary circumstances. And we get to see that all their perfections and imperfections and everything that they have to their name, try to overcome struggle after struggle after struggle. What happens when
Hmm.
they get tempted by greed? What happens when they get tempted by lust? If they get tempted by gluttony, even? And
Hmm.
what happens if they fall? What happens if they succeed? And these are kind of stories that we see for decades, going thousands of years. Thousands of
Hmm.
years, we had stories like this that help inspire us and show us these different aspects of ourselves. Diving into desire, diving into fear, terror, and we kind of can't help but wonder what it'd be like to be in that situation. So I would say good stories are important because they show us they always show us something true. As
Right.
the stories are lies we tell to show true things. That's really important because the truth of the hero's journey is that it's not actually the hero's journey. It's originally called the monument. Um, because it's a journey that we all go through. We all have to go through it through this journey of maturity, and that's ultimately what the hero's journey is: a
Hmm.
journey of maturity. It's we all start off as the naive farm boy, and then we have to step out of our comfort zone.
Right.
We have to start growing and challenging ourselves, growing skills, and stepping out of our comfort zone into the unknown, into something that allows us to grow and challenge ourselves, or
Hmm.
else we'll never grow up.
Yeah.
Ultimately, stories, they help us grow. They help us know that we can, if we run into a challenge, we can overcome it. And
Hmm.
so that's why good stories will always be important.
So imagine a world where you are no longer dependent on your own strength, but on the strength of someone else who's already done it before you. Well, let's take Star Wars as an example. Do you know what people did whenever Emperor Palpatine was sworn in? They adapted, and they overcame, and they were okay. Was there a man who would eventually stop the madness? Sure, I mean, yeah. But do you know what was before that? There were a group of people who had the character enough and the strength enough to stand against the political forces at the time. Rebels, if you will. Please, okay? I'll be here, I guess only a couple more minutes here, I guess. I mean, all Luke did was join something that was already happening, and that changed him. But even better, you know what he did when he got his hand chopped off and his best friend was frozen in carbonite? He adapted and he pressed on. But Paul, how does that apply to me? Well, you'll see in just a second, but first, literature double. To me, if you look at all the fronts, whether it be like movies or books or like politics or even just like local community stuff, even like city stuff,
Right.
it's all pretty divisive, I guess. Not I guess,
Oh,
but I mean
very
it
divisive.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
it's all very divisive actually, just objectively divisive. So then, but as far as like story goes, like story can be, in my opinion, it can be a way to really learn and grow from. Like if you think about like Jesus, for example, he always used parables and stories to like that we can like connect to and put ourselves in those shoes. Or if you think about the turtle and Kung Fu Panda, he like always gives these kind of like analogies and stuff that you can kind of place yourself into, or like kind of you can um yeah, like learn from.
Yeah, this is
So
kind of like
then
I always thought of the stories. Stories are always very important. They historically very important. I mean,
mhm,
you go down the street, you ask any person on the street, hey, what's your opinion on the Greek society back during the ancient times? What do you think? What do you think about their agora system? Like, I don't. What are you talking about? But if you
mhm,
ask them who Zeus is, if you ask them who like Aphrodite is, if you ask them about who Helen of Troy was, they're probably like, oh yeah, Helen of Troy. The war and Achilles and stuff like that. They'll
mhm,
probably know because it's told to us through story, and it's kind of what we're
right.
interested in. Most people are not interested in facts like that of any kind of thing unless they're particularly interested in some subject matter. But
Mm,
however,
mhm, mhm,
human beings, we are always interested in stories because it's not just about the story themselves. It's usually about what we can take from it. A good story is not just surface level. A good story we can learn lessons from it. We can take something from that story and apply it to our own lives, or we see something in that story that can inspire us or get us through some problem. And I always remember that one story that Neil Gaiman told about Coraline, where a fan contacted him and said that she was going through a horrible time, and she read Coraline and said that if Coraline can get through all that mess, then she can get through whatever she's going
mhm,
through. And it's kind
mhm,
of like
mhm.
I think everyone who's seen a movie or had a favorite movie or had a favorite story has gone through something similar where they find comfort in someone else's struggle and seeing them succeed, or they find inspiration in a story that's like that. And so I think that's why stories are very, very important. One of the most important things that the human race can produce. And it gets us enlightened in other cultures, other perspectives, other philosophies. Right. It teaches us lessons, it inspires us, and it creates a whole new thing that we can look into and take with us throughout over the years, even though those civilizations are gone now or have changed so much that they're almost unrecognizable.
I have in my notes, or George Washington about the revolution. I don't know what that means. So write in the comments what George Washington has to do with that, I guess. I mean, I guess I could probably put it together with the revolution and all that stuff, but write in the comments what do you interpret the relationship between George Washington and what I'm talking about. That's good. Now imagine a world where you had to be with someone who thought differently than you. I mean, could you be with him? Could you do it? Has there ever been a story where that's happened? Well, Shrek. Okay. But we'll do Star Wars to keep with the running theme. So Han Solo doesn't believe in the Force. He doesn't think it is a legitimate way to think and to get things done or anything. Doesn't believe in it. But he doesn't hold that against Luke. And he doesn't let it affect him in any way as far as helping him or doing things with him or whatever. He doesn't hate Luke because he believes in the Force. And Luke doesn't hate Han because he doesn't. But Paul, how does that relate to today's current political climate? Well, let's do that. Let's put it in today's current political climate. So there's a lot of hate and disdain going around in America and our country. Granted, the people I'm talking about are outliers in the general population, but they're still fighting for what they believe is true. Now, when you're faced with someone who thinks differently than you, you're met with a lot of tension for expressing any opinion that's different than what they think. Like, for example, I know people who've gotten excommunicated from their families because of who they voted for. And then I also know people who have excommunicated other people for who they voted for. Now let's think for just 1 second. What would happen if the party that we didn't like won? What would happen if the absolute worst case scenario happened? I mean, it would be chaos, right? But let's think about a story where chaos happened. What did those heroes do? They got up and they pressed on. They remembered who they were and they moved forward. So then what happens if someone you know thinks differently than you? Well, let's think of the worst case scenario and you are excommunicated and you do lose friends. What are you gonna do? Well, let's think about the others who were excommunicated in stories. What did they do? They woke up and they moved forward and showed grace to everyone that they met. So then where do we conclude? Where does story matter in today's current political climate? There are worlds out there that exist where people survived the worst case scenarios. There's a world out there where enemies become friends and work together despite their differences. So when you think about today's political climate, you gotta think about what story are you living in? Are you living in a story of grace or of vengeance? Are you the hero who turns dark? Or are you the one who changes things for good? And if you are living in a world of vengeance and darkness, there's always hope for you, and there's always redemption for you. So go on, you 30% who actually finished this video. Walk outside, greet someone with a smile, and live the story of grace. Bye! Okay, so I don't know if you know this, but my YouTube channel is pretty big. I have like 117 subscribers. It's like not a big deal. I'm just a normal guy, all right? I poop just like everybody else. If you had to plug something for, let's say, like, I don't know, like 20 people, what would you plug?
I'm Literature Devil on YouTube. I go into the storytelling, the craft, diving into the building blocks of narrative structure, and also taking a really big a lot of enjoyment out of debunking a lot of this modern day nonsense about, oh, you're sexist, you're racist, even like this. People don't like this stuff, not because they're bigots, but because it's bad.